Beaches are meant for fun and relaxation, but sometimes summer nights hide secrets you'll never forget. Tonight, I'm sharing 6 real stories of terror by the shore. I had lived in a small beach town until I was about 25, and if I'm being honest, most of who I was revolved around the shore. My neighborhood was a 20-minute walk from the sand, and I'd been surfing longer than I could even speak. It was almost impossible to shake out a pair of shoes without sending a small cascade of sand spilling to the floor. My best friends, Armin and Chuck, were the type of extroverted, charismatic guys who could charm just about anyone, and together we were 18-year-old teenagers obsessed with summer, freedom, and girls. It was late May, a few weeks before school let out. Senioritis had completely taken over, and we didn't care about high school anymore. Armin and I had plans with 2 girls from our school, girls we'd been seeing in the halls and getting along with for months. The plan was simple. Pick them up in the evening, drive to a secluded beach, lay out blankets, enjoy the warm night, sip a little wine, and watch the stars. It felt perfect, and in that moment, nothing could go wrong. I arrived at Sophia's house just after 9. She and Fran were waiting by the driveway, laughing and slightly unsteady from a bit of pre-gaming. Armin and I exchanged a knowing grin. We were in for a fun night. The drive itself was a scenic route, a half-hour of music, laughter, and philosophical discussions between me and Fran about the nature of time and life. We were young, invincible, and completely oblivious to the danger that would soon follow. The beach I chose was perfect, secluded, quiet, and far from the main boardwalk. We could drive partway up a dirt path and then walk the rest along a narrow sand trail that wound steeply down to the shore. The sky would be clear for stargazing, and I had blankets and wine in hand, feeling like I had thought of everything. For a while, the night lived up to its promise. We sprawled across the blankets, laughing, talking, and enjoying the rhythm of the ocean waves. Armin and Fran wandered further down the beach, leaving Sophia and me alone in the darkness. That's when it started. A faint, whirring sound, almost like a small engine, drifted through the night. At first, I assumed Sophia was imagining it. Maybe she was just tipsy. But then I heard it too. The sound moved, shifted, and faded before I could locate it. I reassured her, "It's nothing," though a knot of unease began to settle in my stomach. We continued, tried to ignore it, throwing our shirts over our heads and laughing. Then Sophia shrieked. I looked up, following her trembling finger, and froze. At first, all I saw was a black expanse of the sky, but from her perspective, I realized a horrifying truth. A drone, perfectly aligned with the moon, hovered above us. It lingered for just a moment before zipping away into the darkness, and suddenly, everything made sense. The whirring sound we'd heard earlier, that was the drone. I felt my stomach churn. We had been watched the entire night, completely unaware. Sophia buried her head in her hands, crying silently, and I tried my best to calm her. I suggested we head back to the car, but the joy of the night was gone. Armin and Fran had already arrived, and I explained what happened. The air was thick with disbelief, tension, and fear as we drove in silence toward Sophia's house. The girls weren't ready to go home yet, and neither were we, so we scrambled for a safe place. Chuck's house became our refuge. Massive, quiet, and parental supervision lax. It was the perfect hideout. But just as I was catching my breath, my phone lit up. A single notification flashed on the screen. AirTag found moving with you. My heart stopped. The terror of the beach, of being watched by a drone was nothing compared to this. We had been tracked. Panic set in. I checked the car meticulously, looking under seats, around tires, flipping floor mats, sweating as adrenaline coursed through me. Then, in the wheel well of the driver's side, taped perfectly, was the air tag. Holding in my hand, I realized the predator knew exactly where we were the entire time. I smashed it to pieces, but the knowledge lingered. Someone had been stalking us. Weeks later, Chuck called in a panic. He held grainy, dimly lit photos of me and Sophia on the beach, revealing us in compromising positions. The thought of blackmail, of being watched again, sent chills down my spine. Police were involved, but the images revealed nothing, leaving a lingering sense of dread. Even now, thinking back, I can't shake the fear, the feeling of being observed when we thought we were alone. That night on the beach changed everything. The freedom and innocence of summer, the thrill of youth vanished in a few hours. I learned that some nights are more dangerous than they seem, that even the quietest beaches can hide predators, and that the shadows under the moonlight can watch you long after you leave. Beaches have always held a sense of freedom and excitement for me, but that summer night along the Jersey shore changed everything. My best friend Ricardo and I, both 19, came from well-off North Jersey families and spent our summers enjoying the shore like it was our private kingdom. My house was in Belmar, his in Lavalette, and we'd ride the hour-long drive between towns chasing parties, private beaches, or just quiet nights under the stars. This particular evening, we decided on a calm night. No parties, no noise, just a few beers, a joint, and the wide open sky above us. Even though we'd partied hard the past few weeks, this was a chance to relax and soak in the shore in peace. Lavalette's beaches had that perfect balance of isolation and beauty. High dunes, soft sand, the ocean whispering in the distance. The plan seemed harmless, almost idyllic. After grabbing our bikes from Ricardo's garage, we headed to a less visited stretch of sand. For some reason, Ricardo insisted we ride further than I'd ever been, and though I didn't understand why, I went along. Eventually, we arrived at a desolate beach. No cars, no lights, just a faint glimmer of the moon reflecting off the waves. We hid our bikes under shrubs, lit the joint, and laid back, listening to the gentle lapping of the ocean. It was perfect, or so we thought. That's when it began. A faint buzzing sound, metallic and unnatural, carried over the sand. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was some machine in the distance. Ricardo tensed beside me, his eyes scanning the darkness. The sound intensified subtly, and then suddenly, it became impossible to ignore, a high-pitched, droning hum that seemed to surround us. We sat up, trying to locate the source. The darkness was too complete, and the ocean masked our own noises. My heart raced as adrenaline kicked in. Whatever it wasn't normal. The buzzing grew louder with every passing second, as though it had detected us, drawn to us. A shadow moved on the dune ahead. I froze. There at the top of the sandhill was a figure, tall, impossibly still, with arms that hung nearly to its knees. It didn't move, didn't breathe, but its presence alone sent a cold shiver down my spine. Ricardo whispered, barely audible, "Do you see that?" I nodded, paralyzed, unable to turn away. Then, as if responding to our awareness, more figures appeared, scattered along the slope, all motionless, all watching. We bolted. My feet sank into the sand as we ran parallel to the beach, heart pounding, lungs burning. The buzzing behind us escalated, almost deafening now. like some monstrous mechanical predator chasing us through the dunes. We had no idea what was drone, hallucination, something else entirely, but we knew it wasn't friendly. We reached another dune and scrambled up the slope, glancing back. The figures hadn't moved. They didn't need to. Their silent observation was enough to terrify us. When we finally reached the top and looked back, the entire beach below us seemed to stretch into a black void, empty, silent, but alive with the memory of what we had seen. That night, we ran all the way home, abandoning our bikes and any sense of calm. The next morning, we tried retracing our path, but the bikes were gone. Stolen? Hidden? We'll never know. And the buzzing. We never heard anything like it again. I've spent countless summers at the Jersey Shore, but that night left a permanent scar. Even now, the thought of a quiet beach, the hush of the dunes, and the hum of some unseen drone fills me with unease. It wasn't just fear of the unknown. It was a feeling of being watched, hunted, even in a place we thought was safe. The beach, which had once been a playground, became a place of shadows, of paranoia, and of memories that refused to fade. Some nights, I can still hear that hum if I close my eyes, and I'm reminded that the shore isn't always friendly. Sometimes, it holds secrets better left undiscovered. Beaches had always been my sanctuary as a kid, a place of freedom and endless summer adventures. I remember summers spent counting down the days until my family would head to our beach house, or, if I was lucky, my friend Charles's place. One weekend, when I was 6, Charles, Riley, and I planned a few unsupervised days at his house in LBI. Riley, a year older, had recently gotten his driver's license, so we piled into his car and set off down the coast. The drive itself was chaotic and hilarious. Riley, uncoordinated behind the wheel, swerved and cursed at turns, sending the three of us into fits of laughter. By the time we reached the house, our spirits were high, oblivious to the events that would soon unfold. The house itself was important to the story, so I'll describe it briefly. A front door, a garage connecting front and backyards, a sliding door at the back, an upstairs deck, and a spiral staircase from the deck to the ground. The back faced a narrow lagoon with houses across the water. We had quickly established our plan for the weekend. 6 kids, a beach house, some alcohol, and enough we'd to last a weekend. It was perfect. That afternoon, after settling in, we scouted for girls in the area via Snapchat and found 3 willing to join us: Rosie, Alexa, and Sophie. We prepared drinks, hid some of our parents' alcohol, and felt invincible. By evening, the 6 of us were in Charles's backyard pool, the heated water steaming under the gentle breeze. The night was bliss. Laughter, smoke curling into the air, the stars above reflected in the pool. Suddenly, Charles silenced the music. He stood frozen, staring past me toward the lagoon. Confused, I turned to see nothing but darkness. "What's wrong?" one of the girls asked. He whispered that someone was standing on the dock across the lagoon. At first, I laughed it off. People live there, right? But Charles shook his head. The family's in Florida for the week. That's when the unease began to seep in. Our laughter died as a metallic, wet-sounding splash echoed behind us. Then another, and another, for splashes in succession. My stomach dropped. Those figures on the dock weren't staying put. They were swimming across the lagoon. We were frozen for a second, panic clawing at us, before Charles shouted to go inside. The girls panicked as we scrambled, shivering, out of the pool and toward the house. Riley slammed the sliding door shut, locking it, while Charles ran to front to secure that door too. Heart pounding, We fled to a room invisible from the outside, holding our breaths and listening. Soft footsteps above us shattered the fragile calm. The intruders had made it inside. We were intoxicated, defenseless, and completely vulnerable. Escape was our only option. We bolted for the front door, diving into Riley's car. Chaos ensued as he fumbled with the keys, panicking, and accidentally demolished Charles's mailbox in the process. Engines roaring, adrenaline surging. We sped away from the house, hearts hammering, unsure of what had just happened. Police were called, but arriving too late. They found a top-floor ransacked and a medium-sized Boston whaler boat stolen. Charles's parents kept a spare key hidden, which explained how quickly the culprits escaped. But how they knew about it remains a mystery to this day. Even weeks later, the horror of that night lingered. The thought that someone had invaded our sanctuary, watched us from the water, and stolen items while we were at the house is something I still replay in my mind. Every door and window I've ever left unlocked feels like a lapse in security. Every shadow along a quiet beach evokes a memory of that lagoon. That night taught me the fragility of safety and the reality that even places we consider secure can be violated in an instant. The beach, the house, the stars. It all felt like it belonged to us, and yet it was violated in seconds by someone who knew the terrain, knew the timing, and knew our weakness. To this day, I lock every door before sleeping, double-check every window, and avoid underestimating potential danger of the calmest summer nights. As a kid, I loved the shore. Summers were spent running barefoot along the sand, chasing waves, and laughing with friends until the sun dipped below the horizon. My family had a modest beach house, but my friend Charles had something even better, a larger house right on the water, perfect for summer mischief. One weekend, when I was about 6, Charles, Riley, and I planned a few unsupervised days at his place. Riley, just a year older, had recently gotten his license, so we drove down together, buzzing with excitement. The drive was chaotic. Riley, not the most skilled driver, swerved and cursed at turns, sending the three of us into fits of laughter. When we arrived, we wasted no time moving our things inside and exploring. The layout of the house mattered. A front door, a garage connecting front and backyards, a sliding door at the back, an upstairs deck, and a spiral staircase leading from the deck to the ground. The house backed onto a narrow lagoon with homes across the water. Little did we know, the layout would determine our fate. By evening, we had located a few girls via Snapchat, Rosie, Alexa, and Sophie. They agreed to come hang out, and we stocked up on enough weed and alcohol to last the weekend. That night, the 6 of us lounged in Charles's backyard pool. The air was warm, the water steaming, and smoke from our joints curled into the night sky. Everything felt perfect. Then Charles froze. He turned the music all the way down and stared past me toward the lagoon. At first, I laughed. "Relax. It's probably someone on the other side," I said. But Charles shook his head. "No. The family who lives there is in Florida this week. That's not possible." My laughter died instantly. Something felt off. We watched, holding our breath, as 4 tall silhouettes emerged on the dock, motionless, facing our house. Their presence was chilling. I couldn't tell what they were wearing or even their features, only that they were looking directly at us. One of the girls whimpered, and I felt the first real pang of fear. Suddenly, for consecutive splashes echoed from the lagoon. They were swimming. The intruders had entered the water, and they were coming toward us. Panic surged. We were drunk, unarmed, and completely vulnerable. Charles shouted for us to get inside, and we obeyed, moving as quickly as possible hearts hammering in our chests. Riley slammed the sliding door shut, locking it, while Charles ran to the front door to secure it as well. The footsteps above us were faint but unmistakable. They had made it inside. For the first time, the thrill of summer fun gave way to sheer terror. We huddled in a room invisible from the outside, listening to every sound, every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind. We couldn't stay there forever. The intruders could easily find us. Adrenaline surged, and we bolted for the front door. Riley fumbled with the keys, panic making his hands shake uncontrollably. The engine roared to life, and we sped away, narrowly avoiding obstacles in our chaotic escape. In the blur of headlights and sand, Riley smashed Charles's mailbox, a casualty of our panic. The police arrived later, too late to catch anyone. They found the top floor ransacked and Charles's medium-sized Boston Whaler stolen. The intruders had known the house well enough to locate the hidden key and execute a rapid getaway. It was clear they had planned the heist, targeting us specifically while knowing the house would be empty. Even years later, the memory of that night lingers. Every door I leave unlocked feels like a vulnerability. Every shadow along a quiet beach evokes the silhouettes on that dock. I've learned that the shore, which once felt like a sanctuary, can become a trap in an instant. That weekend changed the way I viewed safety, trust, and the illusion of freedom. The beach, the stars, the calm water, all of it had been violated by strangers who knew exactly what they were doing. I still lock every door, double-check windows, and never underestimate the danger of a quiet summer night. That night wasn't just a break-in. It was a lesson in how quickly paradise can turn into a nightmare. I had always considered myself fearless at the beach. Summers were my element. Endless sun, sand under my feet, and nights spent laughing with friends under a blanket of stars. My friend group was tight-knit, reckless, and adventurous. That summer, my best friend Ricardo and I were 19 and spending our time along the Jersey Shore. Our families were well off, which meant private beach access and the freedom to roam after dark. It was one of those rare summer nights where we wanted nothing more than a quiet escape, away from the chaos of parties and rowdy crowds. We agreed to make a simple night. A couple of beers, a joint, and a deserted stretch of sand under the stars. The plan seemed perfect. We drove from my house in Belmar to his in La Valette, an hour's drive, chatting and laughing along the way. The streets were quiet, the summer breeze soft against our skin, and everything felt carefree. Little did we know, that night would change the way I ever saw the beach. Once in La Valette, we grabbed a couple of bikes from Ricardo's garage and headed toward one of the private beaches. The road became narrower and the dunes taller as we ventured further than we ever had before. Ricardo insisted on exploring, claiming he had a better spot in mind. I trusted him, oblivious to the tension building around us. Eventually, we arrived at a desolate beach at the end of a long road. No cars, no lights, just a faint glow of the moon on the sand. We hid our bikes in the shrubs, settled into the sand, and lit our joint. The ocean's gentle waves were the only sound, and we felt free, untouchable. Minutes passed, and we felt completely alone until I heard it, a faint metallic buzzing. At first, I thought it was a wind or a piece of trash rolling across the sand, but then Ricardo noticed it too. The sound was unmistakable and completely unnatural, like a gymnasium light buzzing faintly but amplified across the dunes. It moved, shifting closer and further away, impossible to locate precisely. Fear began creeping in, but we told ourselves it was probably nothing. We tried to ignore it, but then the buzzing intensified. It wasn't gradual. It surged suddenly, right behind our backs. The hairs on my neck stood up as Ricardo grabbed my shoulder, eyes wide, frozen with the same terror coursing through me. When I looked toward the dunes, I saw it. A dark figure standing motionlessly at the peak, unnaturally tall, with arms hanging to its knees. It didn't move. It just watched. "Run," Ricardo hissed. That was all the encouragement we needed. We sprinted toward the next dune, sand fly beneath our feet, hearts hammering in our chests. But when we glanced back, the figure hadn't moved. It was joined by 3 more, each equally tall and silent, facing us like predators surveying their prey. My mind screamed at me to look away, but I couldn't. Every instinct screamed danger, yet our bodies were trapped in panic-fueled flight. We ran parallel to the beach, desperately seeking any sign of safety. The metallic buzzing followed, impossible to ignore, cutting to the natural sound of the waves. Our lungs burned, legs ached, but the fear pushed us onward. By the time we reached a familiar street, we were both breathless, sweat-soaked, and trembling. The once tranquil night had transformed into a nightmare we couldn't explain. The next morning, we retraced our steps, searching for our bikes, but they were gone, vanished, whether stolen by the same figures or removed by some other means. We couldn't tell. All we knew was that something or someone had been there that night, observing us, and we had narrowly escaped their attention. That experience changed my perception of the shore. Beaches, which once represented freedom and joy, now carried an undercurrent of dread. Every sound of buzzing, every shadow cast by the moonlight, triggers a memory of that night. I realized that even the most serene environments could conceal danger, and that sometimes what seems empty and safe is anything but. Even now, years later, I remember the terror with crystal clarity. The dark figures on the dunes, the sudden buzzing, and the rush to safety are etched into my mind. I still avoid that part of the shore, a place that once symbolized endless summer adventure, now a reminder of unseen watchers and a night I'll never forget. Beaches had always been my sanctuary. Sun, sand, and the endless possibility of adventure. As a kid, I spent every summer counting down the days until I could run along the shore without a care in the world. But one summer, that sense of freedom turned into something terrifying. It started as a simple weekend at my friend Charles's beach house on Long Beach Island, LBI. Charles and I, along with our friend Riley, were 6 and 7 years old then, or maybe it was later in our teens, the memory blurs. But what mattered was that we were eager for unsupervised fun. Charles's house was a dream for kids our age. It had a front door, a back sliding door, a garage connecting front and back, a spiral staircase from the upstairs deck to the yard, and crucially, it overlooked a narrow lagoon. Across the water were other homes, usually quiet and dark. That weekend, we had the house to ourselves. Riley drove us down in his car, and the ride was chaotic in the best way. Swerving, laughing, and occasionally cursing at the narrow roads. The excitement was palpable. No adults, no rules, only endless possibilities. After unpacking, we immediately set to work contacting local friends. That weekend, we managed to invite 3 girls, Rosie, Alexa, and Sophie. The plan was simple: drinks, music, and a little weed for good measure. By nightfall, the 6 of us were in Charles's backyard pool, laughter mixing with the softness of steam rising from the heated water. The breeze carried the faint salt of the lagoon, and for a while, it was pure bliss. Then, without warning, Charles froze. The music abruptly cut off, and he stared toward the lagoon with an intensity that made us pause. I laughed at first, assuming he was joking, but the look on his face told a different story. He whispered, "Do you see that? Over there on the dock." My gaze followed his, and I squinted through the darkness. At first, I thought it was nothing, just shadows among shadows. But then I noticed movement, 4 tall silhouettes, standing motionless, facing our house. Fear set in instantly. The girls clutched each other nervously, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the water. The figures didn't move, but their presence was oppressive, almost alive, as if they were measuring us, watching every motion. Charles told us to get inside, and we obeyed, hearts pounding. But just as we were securing the doors, a sound split the night. The faint, deliberate splashes of 4 bodies entering the water, swimming toward us. Panic surged. We were drunk, unarmed, and completely vulnerable. Riley slammed the sliding door shut, locking it, while Charles ran to front to do the same. But it didn't end there. Saw footsteps above us, quiet and deliberate, signal that someone had made it inside. Adrenaline and fear turned our minds into a whirlwind. We had no weapons, no plan, and no way to defend ourselves. The only option was escape. We sprinted for the front door, diving into the car, with Riley fumbling to start the engine. Our hearts raced as we sped away, narrowly avoiding obstacles in the dim moonlight. In the chaos, Riley destroyed Charles's mailbox, a small casualty in the chaos of our escape. Once we were a safe distance away, we called the police. By the time they arrived, the intruders were long gone. The aftermath was devastating. The top floor of the house had been ransacked, and Charles's medium-sized Boston whaler, a valuable boat, was missing. It became clear that the culprits knew the house intimately, including the location of a spare key hidden in a small hatch below the steering wheel. Whoever planned this heist had precise knowledge of the property and had executed their plan with unnerving efficiency. Even years later, the memory lingers. I can still see the tall figures on the dock, standing motionless, watching, waiting. The sound of splashing in the lagoon haunts me on quiet nights. That weekend changed my perception of safety, trust, and freedom. Beaches, once symbols of joy and liberty, now carry the subtle weight of vigilance and caution. To this day, I triple-check every door and window at my home. The illusion of safety can vanish in an instant, and that summer taught me that paradise can hide danger just beneath its surface. The shadows on the dock, the silent watchers, and the stolen boat are reminders that some memories refuse to fade. Even now, I walk the shore with a heightened awareness. Every splash of water, every rustle in the sand, every silhouette in the distance triggers a rush of adrenaline, and I can't help but remember that summer night on LBI, the night when the beach, my sanctuary, became a place of terror. These 6 stories prove that even the calmest beaches can hide secrets that make your blood run cold. The ocean waves can drown out sound, but they can't drown out the fear of being watched, followed, or trapped. Remember, safety is never guaranteed, even in places we think we know. Which of these stories sent chills down your spine? Drop a comment below. I want to know. And if you want to uncover more real-life summer horrors and eerie encounters, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story.